It was a chilling moment. I was sitting with my wife in the hospital, and a surgeon came in and he said, "You have cancer." I remember that moment well, because my wife had survived cancer previously, and this was the second time that she has unfortunately been diagnosed with it. I just remember her face. It was a face of being defeated. It was that face of, oh my God, here we go again. But this time was different. When she previously had cancer, a thyroid cancer, we didn't have children. So this time we have 3 gorgeous, lovely girls. And I remember that moment because it was a very defining moment in our lives. She had the strength to battle and to fight that cancer, but it made us reappraise the way that we look at life. It also made me think about my life and my career. My career is all about that, the hunger to be the best, the person that needs to adulation to win awards and to really drive forward. But it also made me think, what happens if I have a heart attack tomorrow? What would my company do? What would SAP do? Obviously, my family would be very, very upset. SAP would replace me within a month, maybe 2 months. And then in 6 months' time, my name just a fleeting memory. And that makes you put it in perspective about what are we here to try and achieve and what are we here to try and do in life? So we're not trying to get morbid here, but it's to try and frame about what we will need to try and do and try and achieve in life. What are we going to do tomorrow? What do we want to be known for? What is our legacy? What do we want to achieve? Do we just want to hold down a job and hold that job and bring home money, which is absolutely fine? Or do we want to make a difference? Do we want to be known as somebody that has actually changed something for the better, maybe revolutionised it, maybe innovated? I think that society has these conformist expectations. We're expected to be ourselves in certain ways, be it at work, be it with our family, or be it in society. But are we truly ourselves? Are we truly being allowed to be us? Are we really making use of the talent and the skills that we all inherently have? Now, I do smile because I look at the deadly addiction, and that's a strong word, that deadly addiction of excuses which pervades quite modern business life. Sometimes we need to admit that we failed, but we can't admit that failure. We need an excuse. We look at what other people do, and so we say, we could not achieve this. I did not have budget. I did not have the right team. I didn't have the right resources. Our company is too big. Our company is too small. My boss didn't support me. Their boss didn't support me. It's marketing's responsibility to do that. It's HR. HR won't listen to me. These cascade of excuses comes through, and it makes it easier for us. Now, when you start to look at it, is that's the language of excuse. It's the language of failure. It's the language of putting off. Because we have the skills and the capabilities, but we have those barriers and objections in front of us. Now, it's interesting, there's a huge amount of talent in our industry. And I was speaking with Stephen about this, that sometimes it's not easy to work in this recruitment industry. There's a lot of people who will judge us and judge what we do, and sometimes that's not always the most friendly way of doing it. I look at social media. You leap on social media and there's a cacophony of people on there willing to pass judgment on what we do. They sit there and you do something new, and then they'll sit there waiting like a cobra, coiled, ready to attack, to get on there and say, I would have done it this way. This is a better way of doing it. This won't work, etc., etc. And you start to think, this is not what we're about as an industry. We're there to support each other, to encourage, not to knock each other down. Social media is one of those areas that some people have made their brands out of becoming people who like to criticise and to really knock people down. It's their way of building their own brand because they've not had anything themselves to actually build that success. They're waiting to see what people are posting and what they're doing. Now, what is the message of this? it's the messages that we have to be bolder and to be strong and to believe in what we're doing. If you look at, and I think Bill Borman will be talking about this later, if you look at social media and politics at the moment, we've obviously had the effects of Trump, Brexit, the recent election. And what you see out there is people start to shrink. You have the silent majority who are being dominated by people who are posting their opinion, and it's fact. It's fact. Whether they've researched it or not, their opinion is fact, and they will debate it. And what's interesting, they start to unfriend their friends if they disagree. There's no healthy debate, it's that they just want to focus on that inner circle of people that believes in their opinion and will listen to nothing else. Isn't that dangerous? Isn't politics and what we do in recruitment about debate, about new ideas, taking risk, having failure out there and embracing it? When you look at politics, we know in the history of politics, it's a cyclical thing. No one's ever right and things change. And if there was one set way of doing things, we'd be doing it. It becomes subjective. It becomes that time where we all have to take that decision about what we're going to do. But the frightening thing is that when people are then resorting to calling other people idiots, and you're stupid, you're thick, you haven't got the right opinion, I'm right, look at what I'm saying, that then starts to curtail and has that effect in business life. And you see it in our recruitment industry at times, where people are now judging other people when they should be celebrating people trying something different. I speak regularly to other recruitment leaders out there who are not prepared to talk about what they're doing because they're waiting and they're unhappy about this cacophony of people who want to come out and to criticise. Criticise is good, it's about debate, but it's those people out there who are really firing on and trying to undermine the confidence of what we have as an industry. Now, this slippery slope and addiction towards the commentariat is something we can learn from. Now, if you look back many, many years ago, are these the people that would have sat there and they would have said to Alexander Graham Bell, mate, you're going a bit cuckoo. A phone, communications, you can't do that. Never been done in the past. Absolute rubbish. Going to Orville and Wilbur Wright. Flying? A contraption in the sky? Oh, come on. Absolutely ridiculous. And you can keep going through those great inventors who put themselves out on a limb to make a difference. So the message is, as an industry, as we look at things, we embrace things like artificial intelligence, machine learning. We look at the different recruitment marketing techniques out there. We look at companies trying to do something and to make a difference. We embrace that, and as an industry, we cherish everybody there. So we start to look at, there's a lot of activism out there. Activism of people having their opinion, which is great, but when it crushes others' opinion, that's when it's dangerous for us as an industry. So what happens when we fall into that excuse slippery slope? I don't have budget. What is that about? We're not given a magic money pot at the start of the year in a lot of the companies out there, and certainly I'm not. I'm given a very constrained budget. I have to operate on a business case by business case basis. I go up to the board almost with a begging bowl with a list of the demands I have and then the return on investment I expect, and then they will follow up and ask me a whole host of questions. I have to force through and to battle to get that sliver of budget which I can get. Now, easily I could always say, I'm not going to be able to get that budget. I'll sit back and I can cash the cheque in each month and I won't move forward. But that doesn't take us forward, and that's an industry we all have to learn to embrace that. I remember sitting down with our marketing team and I said to them, I want to produce a cartoon. And there was a degree of mirth in the room. It was like, why do you want to do a cartoon? And one of the marketing directors came up to me and said, Matthew, you are recruitment, you're not bloody Pixar, what are you trying to do? Then it was then having that debate and talking about what are the key things that engage on social media? What has the most repeat visitors? What has that level of engagement that people want to comment, share and like? What is a vehicle for the way that you can tell a story about your company and in a fun and engaging way? Again, it got to that point where no, you can't do this. So I didn't have the resource to do it and I didn't have the budget. But I thought, I want to continue driving on this. So I went and found a graduate at a local university, asking that they would help fulfill this idea to try and script a cartoon that we could put out there and see if it would engage our core audiences. They said fine. Managed to give them some, SAP freebies to help to encourage them, but there was no salary there or anything like that. They started off on it. And do you know what was interesting was that despite all of the barriers and the objections of people saying, don't do it, can't be done, you shouldn't do it, what a crazy idea, you're recruitment and not Pixar, is that when we started to do it, we found that we had more engagements on our cartoon than our main corporate Facebook page. Our marketing team were going, how are they getting 5,500 likes and engagements on theirs when we're getting, 100 or 200? And then it started that engagement process that the marketing team would start to think, okay, it's about relationships, engagement, trying new ideas, and they listened to us and they gave us more of that seat at the table to listen to our ideas about how they do things in product marketing. The easy thing would have been just to rock back and to push back and say, not going to do this because I don't have the resources, don't have the time, don't have the buy-in from anyone. And that's the true thing about our industry. It's about how we embrace and we try and drive through. Now, I always was saying to my team, if you don't believe in yourself, why should anyone else? And I think that's a key fact and a key thing, is that we've got those talents, we've got those ideas, but there's often things that will prevent us achieving them. Those things that are preventing us could be things that we can work around. Is it an obstructive boss? Then you build those coalition of interests of people that will support you in trying something different, persuading and pushing it forward. Because if we don't push it forward, and if we don't try and take the industry forward, then we stagnate. We look at things and we fall into this trap of going, we're a subservient feature of HR. But we are a very important part of the business. If we don't recruit the best salespeople, who in turn bring in the best customers, who in turn bring in the best sales results, who in turn are affecting the bottom line, the business is failing. If we don't hire the best developers and we don't hire the best people who can bring in those creative new products which take us on to the next level, we are failing. So as an industry and as a profession, we are, if not the most important function, we are one of the most critical in a business. That's why when you look at now those reports in the NASDAQ and the FTSE, when the chairman is justifying the results, often they're now talking about TA. Now, do we have a seat at that top table? Should we have a seat at that top table given our criticalness? Now, that goes into that debate of who we should report to. Should it be marketing? Should it be sales? Should it be HR? But the key thing is that on our own, we make the most difference to a company and can have that critical effect of driving it through. So when you go back to your companies and your businesses and you sit there and you think, do I just want to cash the check? Nothing wrong with that. Or do I want to try and make a difference? Try something new, try something more fulfilling to take my company on to the next level. Now, I look at the recruitment industry and it worries me at times. There's a lot of people who feel that the best way forward for their careers is to become a consultant, to advise other people on how they should do things. We need more strong leaders out in the field and not people thinking the best way forward is to become that consultant. Now, interestingly, when I was sitting down with the board at SAP, we were talking about consultancy. And one of the board asked, Matthew, you're not using that many consultants to advise you on things. Why is that? And then before I had a chance to answer, one of the other board members has said, because he's spending his time researching and learning and trying new things. He's consulting with his peers in other companies, and he's not derogating his responsibilities by saying, I want a consultant to do this for me. And then another one chipped in and said, well, yeah, you can use Google to find some of the ideas. And it comes about us as individuals and about how much we want to drive and we want to achieve. So what is the message of today? Life is short. You need to seize the opportunities. Need to look out, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to be known as? But most importantly, the talents that you have and the capabilities you have, use them, drive them forward and make a better difference with this recruitment industry. Thank you very much.